Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is our week number 31 championship score predictions, guys. It is mental that we're at week 31 already, guys, and there is only 6 games left of this championship season. How fast this championship season is going by is just absolutely ridiculous now, but we are of course getting into the business end of the season now, so really this is where it gets really interesting, and we do have some massive games to talk over. So if you've not seen this series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every week I give you my championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the championship. FIFA 17 also makes their predictions, but what I'm really interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and I want you guys to go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do successfully manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video. And speaking of your comments, guys, I will include your comments on screen now, so if any of you guys did successfully manage to predict the midweek scorelines going on, I will include your comment on screen now. So fair play honestly to everyone who got a midweek scoreline correct, because I think all of mine were wrong. All my scorelines were wrong for that one, so fair play to everyone that got one right, because we had quite a few upsets in midweek, I'd say. So like I say, fair play. So kicking it off, guys, we have the game which is taking place tonight on Friday night, guys. We have the game taking place between QPR and Brighton, and this is actually a really interesting encounter, of course. QPR at this point in time don't really have anything to play for anymore, I'd say. I don't think they're in danger of going down anymore, and equally, you know, they're not going to get the playoffs or anything like that, but they're coming up against this Brighton side who, of course, still has everything to play for. And what Brighton could do in this game, especially if they do go ahead and pick up all 3 points, they could seriously put the pressure on Newcastle when they play on Saturday against Sheffield Wednesday. So going into this game, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 away win to Brighton. I just think they'll be a bit too strong for this QPR side, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2 on QPR. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Birmingham who are coming up against Derby County, and oh my word, this one I'm really looking forward to seeing the outcome of, because of course it's Gary Rowett returning to Birmingham for the first time since he was sacked there earlier in the season. And I mean, the way Birmingham have gone since Gary Rowett's left has just been absolutely, it's just been unbelievable really how bad they've been under Zola. So this one's going to be a very interesting matchup indeed between Zola against Rowett. And how do I see this one going? I mean, Derby have been in very good form recently. They of course beat Fulham in midweek 4-2, which is no easy feat to do. David Nugent looks like he's in very good form for Derby at the moment. So going into this one, I'm going to fancy Derby to get one here. I'm going to fancy a 3-1 away victory for Derby. I just think they'll be a bit too strong for how this Birmingham side has been playing recently, and FIFA has gone ahead and backed a 2-0 home win to Birmingham. That's definitely a game to keep your eye on. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Blackburn Rovers who are coming up against Barnsley. So recently I'd say that Barnsley have been drawing a lot of games recently. Whenever I seem to look over their results, they've got just a catalogue of draws going on recently, and I think that trend could actually continue in this game, of course. Blackburn Rovers currently 1 point away from safety, so they are currently in the relegation zone. So really it's imperative that Blackburn go out and start picking up all 3 points, in especially games like this where they're at home and they're playing a team which doesn't have anything to play for anymore. But how do I see this one going? I think this could be quite a cagey affair actually. I don't really think one side's going to absolutely dominate the game. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict a 1-1 draw. I can see this one being quite a level game, and either side could nick it with the odd goal here or there, but I'm going to fancy this one to be a draw. FIFA's also going to agree with me that it's going to be a draw, but FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Bristol City who are coming up against Wolves, and what a massive game this is, in my opinion, in the season of Bristol City. I mean, if Bristol City don't win this match, and of course Blackburn win their match, that will mean that Bristol City will drop into the bottom 3, and of course Bristol City are coming off the back of that horrific performance they had in midweek to Preston North End when they were annihilated 5-0 at Deepdale. So coming into this one, it's a really weird one really. When a team's just been battered, you never really know the reaction you're going to get out of that. Either the confidence in all the players will be completely shot and it'll just be another awful performance, or they'll be looking to have a strong reaction to that performance. I mean, I know what Bristol City did I quite liked was that they actually refunded all the fans which went to Preston away, which fair play to the club for doing that. But they are coming up against this Wolves Wolves side who, at this point in time, are in a very good run of form. They're playing Wolves at just the wrong time because it wasn't too long ago, really, when we were speaking about Wolves as real relegation candidates. But recently, they've been able to pull themselves away from the relegation zone. I think they're about 10 or 11 points clear of that now. But for this one, I am going to fancy Bristol City to have a reaction in this game because they cannot play as bad as they did on Tuesday because they really were abysmal in that game. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict a 2-2 draw. If I had to predict someone to win, I'd be backing Wolves, but I've got a feeling that Bristol City might have a reaction in this one. So I'll say 2-2. Thief is saying 2-0 Bristol City. And then for our next matchup, guys, we have Burton Albion who are coming up against Aston Villa. So once again, Burton really are playing Aston Villa at the wrong time. Aston Villa at this point in time are in a very nice run of form. Steve Bruce really does seem to be getting the best out of these Villa players at the moment. I'd say that the playoffs will be a stretch too far for Villa this season. Despite the good run that they're actually in at the moment, I just think that it's too much ground to make up where they currently sit in the table. But he is building the foundations for next season, in my opinion, which could be a successful season if they continue to build on this momentum. But they're coming up against this Burton Albion side who, once again, are in desperate need of picking up all 3 points. Of course, they're currently not in the relegation zone, but they just sit above it at the moment. At the bottom of the table, it is incredibly tight, so it's massive for all the teams at the bottom to make advantage of their home fixtures. But coming up against this Villa side who, like I said, are in a very good run of form at the moment, I am going to fancy a 2-1 away win to Aston Villa, whereas FIFA is going to back a 1-0 home win. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Cardiff City who are coming up against Brentford. So once again, we have two sides coming up against each other here which don't have anything to play for the rest of the season. Neither are in threat of relegation, and equally neither of them have a chance of getting into the playoffs. So really these two sides are coming up against each other with not much to play for, but they'll be looking to build the foundations for a successful campaign next season. But these two sides coming at each other in, I'd say, different runs of form really. Cardiff recently haven't really been in the best of form from what we've seen of them probably a month or two ago. They've not really been in the best run lately, whereas Brentford, I've actually been quite impressed with how Brentford have been playing recently. They've been having quite a few decent victories recently, and a lot of their star men are actually in form at the moment. I mean, Sergi Canis has been playing well recently, Vibe's been playing well, Jota's been playing well, Ryan Woods as well, saw him have a decent performance. So I'd say that Brentford are coming into this one with the more momentum, but Cardiff equally have been a pretty tough side to beat at home. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and predict a 1-1 draw, whereas FIFA's backing a 2-0 Brentford win. Then going into our next game, guys, we have Fulham who are coming up against Ipswich Town. So this is actually a really interesting encounter to actually go ahead and talk about. Of course, it's going to be massive for Fulham really to go ahead and pick up all 3 points in this match if they are going to keep the pressure on Sheffield Wednesday, especially with them playing Newcastle this week. Fulham do have a massive opportunity to go ahead and get into the top 6 this weekend, but they're coming up against the Ipswich side, which equally, you know, it's got to be said, Ipswich are coming into this one on the back of the victory they got in midweek, so it might be a bit of a weird one for this one, but Ipswich, I'd say, are just probably the most inconsistent side in the Championship. So for this one, I'm going to fancy Fulham to bounce back from their midweek showing with a 2-0 victory over Ipswich, whereas FIFA's saying Ipswich will get the 1-0 victory. And then going into our next game, guys, we have a massive game taking place with the race for the playoffs. We have Leeds United who are coming up against my Preston North End, and oh boy, I am a little bit nervous going into this game, I'm not going to lie. I mean, Preston are coming into this game with the better form, I'd say. You know, we're coming off the back of a 5-0 victory we got in midweek against Bristol City, whereas Leeds are coming into this one really not on a good run of form recently, you know. I've seen a lot of the Leeds performances recently haven't been stereotypical of what we'd associate with Leeds, really. They've not showed that resilience or that fight or really that quality that they have recently, so that's been a bit of a surprise. But going into this one, I just have a feeling the form box could be flipped in this one. I mean, Preston's away record in 2017 is nothing to shout about. We've actually only won 1 game, and with how good Leeds have been at Ellen Road this season, it pains me to do it, but I am going to say this one will end 2-1 to Leeds United. I hope I'm wrong about that one, but I just think Leeds might edge Preston out in this one. I'll say 2-1 Leeds. FIFA saying 0-0. Then going into our next game, guys, we have Norwich City who are coming up against Reading, and this is actually quite an interesting one once again. You know, Reading coming into this one, of course, currently sitting in the playoffs and in a very nice run of form recently, I say. Going into the playoffs, really, it's all about going in there with momentum. That really does give your side the best chance of then going on and winning the playoffs. So coming up against a side like Norwich away, who really, in terms of confidence, must be just shot at the moment. Some of the results they've been getting recently and some of the performances that they've been putting in really haven't been anything to shout about. Obviously, ever since Alex Neil has left, even when he was there, it wasn't great, but since he's left, they've not really had a reaction that I know a lot of their fans would be hoping they did. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 away victory for Reading, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0. And then for our next game, guys, we have Nottingham Forest, who are coming up against Huddersfield, and this is a massive game going on this weekend, guys, which could affect both the top and bottom of the Championship. And I do actually think that this could be a potential banana skin for Huddersfield. You know, we've already seen Nottingham Forest at home this season take down some of the big sides, which has been quite surprising, really. You know, I'm thinking back to like the Newcastle game, which Nottingham Forest had not too long ago this season. So this one could be a potential slip up for Huddersfield, but of course their confidence should be back on track now with that victory they got midweek against Norwich, whereas Forest have been showing flutters under Mark Warburton. They've not looked too bad, but equally they've not been brilliant so far under him. Been quite inconsistent, I think is fair to say. So for this one, it could go either way, but I am going to back a 2-1 away victory for Huddersfield, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 1-1 draw. Then for our second to last fixture, guys, we have Wigan Athletic, who are coming up against Rotherham United. So two sides coming up against each other, which really haven't had a season to shout about. I mean, in my latest video, I did a poll for you guys saying, do Wigan have any chance of survival this season? And I think the poll was pretty unanimous. It was like 90% said no, they don't have a chance. But with a victory in this game, I mean, maybe they might have the slimmest of margins to claw back some grounds on the team above them if any of the teams above them don't win this weekend. So they're of course coming up against this Rotherham side, and if Wigan want to have any chance at all, like a 1% chance of surviving, this game has to be 3 points for them. So for this game, I'm going to predict a very cagey 1-0 victory for Wigan, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 1-0 Rotherham. And then for our last fixture to talk over, guys, we have the evening kickoff on Saturday taking place between Sheffield Wednesday and Newcastle United, and this is actually once again a really interesting encounter which I'd love to get some of your guys' opinions on. I mean, these two sides coming up against each other, I mean, it's a really difficult one, really, because Sheffield Wednesday have been quite hit and miss recently. I mean, they did win their match in midweek against Rotherham, but equally, I don't really think they were tested too much in that game, whereas Newcastle are coming into this one. Yeah, they got the victory against Burton, but equally in that one, they weren't their best. I mean, I know the referee had quite a bit to do with that, which was quite controversial in midweek, I think it's fair to say, but Newcastle's performances recently haven't really been the best, but equally, despite that, they've still been going ahead and getting the results for them. So for that reason, I am going to back a 2-1 away victory for Newcastle. That one could go either way, I wouldn't be surprised, but it is a really interesting one, that one. That could affect the race for the playoffs and the race for the titles. Let me know what you guys think of that one down below. FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Wednesday. So there you have it, guys. That will wrap it up for our week number 31 score predictions. So thank you so much for watching, guys. So make sure you do go ahead and make your score predictions in the comments down below. All the features that are taking this weekend will be listed in the description down below. But like I said, thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. As well as that, make sure you subscribe for regular Championship content. Go ahead and drop me a follow on Twitter, as I always tweet before I upload the video. Therefore, you'll never miss a video ever again, guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.